And speaker. He just has so much wisdom. So I always am reminding him, okay, give us some points we can take from that for our daily spiritual paths. He gets so into the wonderful art and history. And he is a very gentle soul. Let's welcome, please, Douglas Barker.
Well, good morning and welcome to all of you. Today my topic is actually going to be a little bit more abstract than normal, namely on the subject of self-esteem. And the title of my sermon is, Why Does the Universe Hate Me So Much? Working on Your Self-Esteem for Fun and Profit. Now, appropriately, this is inspired by the work of Serge Kahili King, who is the major teacher of Huna, or Hawaiian shamanism. And I'm going to start, it's going to be consisting of first theory and then practice. And I'm going to start by saying that one of the most important concepts in self-development is your self-image. Your self-image is the way that you perceive yourself in relation to the world and to other people. And this is based on two things primarily. First of all, what you recall about yourself, your memories of the past and everything that you've experienced and learned. And second, the imaginative scenarios that you create about your past, present, and future, and your interpretations of them. Self-image is key because this is going to be the mental framework on which all the other qualities are built. And one of the key components of self-image is self-esteem. So first of all, how do we define what self-esteem really is? This is a formal definition that comes from the American Psychology Association. Quote, the degree to which the qualities and characteristics contained in one's self-concept are perceived to be positive. Or in everyday terms, this means giving yourself respect, admiration, love, value, that's a very important one, and dignity. And good self-esteem is vital to a successful and happy life. Moreover, self-confidence, which is your ability, your belief in your ability to bring about desired changes, that is also based on self-esteem. And it also enables us to weather personal crises and disappointments. Now, it wouldn't be so necessary to emphasize good self-esteem were it not for the fact that so many people have such low self-esteem. And it's prevalent and it's problematic. Now, this is something you may need to continually work on as you go through life. I can remember just a couple of weeks ago, I had a kind of a knockdown experience, and I was feeling, as they might say in German, als ob ich das letzte kleine Würstchen wäre, which means as if I were the last tiny little sausage. However, I persevered and began to think well of myself and thought, well, I can't do anything drastic. I mean, what would that look like as a headline? Well-respected and liked metaphysical teacher commits suicide a week before his scheduled lecture on self-esteem. That would be terrible. That'd be a terrible example. So the thing is, looking at it from the point of view of low self-esteem, if we think of ourselves as worthless, we open ourselves to being exploited, cheated, or abused. If we don't respect ourselves, then other people don't respect us either. If you think that your place in the world is bad and you don't deserve any better, your low self-esteem is always going to get in the way of your happiness and your success. As one of my favorite New Thought teachers, Maxwell Maltz, the man who wrote Psycho-Cybernetics, once wrote, low self-esteem is like driving through life with the handbrake on. Now, many people think, well, when people give me respect and admiration, it'll build my self-esteem. Instead, they have an arse backwards. High self-esteem is what attracts that respect and admiration. And conversely, a lack of it repels other people. Now, this is problematic because our culture has inhibitions about thinking very well about yourself. We have common expressions in English like, he's too big for his britches, or he has a swelled head, or, well, who does she think she is? And some cultures in the world consider it to be very bad manners to have a very good self-concept. But problematically, when we look at society, we realize that successful people in society certainly do not have any lack of self-esteem. And if you read any book on self-help psychology, that book is going to strongly promote it. So how does this conflict in society arise? Well, first of all, among other things, we have the legacy of class distinctions. Wealthy, highly educated, or exceptionally talented people are held to have superior qualities as individuals, regardless of what their behavior might be at home. And less privileged people, regardless of whatever talents they possess, are seen as inferior. In fact, if you look at the word vulgar, which is a Latin word and means exactly the same thing as common, when someone's described that way, which should literally mean they're among the majority, it has the connotation that there's something wrong with them, that they're low class, so to speak. Now, children, when they're often raised not to rock the boat too much, or not to draw too much attention to themselves. And then, of course, there is religion. And I suppose most of you have heard King Solomon's statement, "Pride goeth before a fall." However, he was really referring to puffed up attitudes about yourself and an overestimation of your abilities, which often does result in a fall. As a friend of mine, a ritual magician in London, once wrote, "Big egos are fun. Inflated egos are a bore." Now, as far as that goes, they promote humility in religion. Knowing that you're not infallible and that you're not better than other people, that's a very positive thing. But that attitude also becomes poisonous when you begin to suppress your own natural abilities and your talents for the sake of getting approval from other people. Also, religion promotes perfection. Jesus himself, in fact, in the New Testament says, "Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father which is in heaven is perfect." But remember that perfection is an ideal. And ideals are wonderful. But when anything less than that ideal is bad, then you're in trouble. Being, quote, bad because you're not perfect is a trap. Because when you do that, you start to think of perfection as being an unchanging state, even though nothing ever stays the same for that long. Moreover, when you are being, quote, bad, this causes guilt, which is a very, very self-destructive feeling. It's a huge reason for not liking yourself. The idea that if you've done something wrong, then there's something wrong with you as a person. And this is an attitude that creates unnecessary suffering. You fall into the trap of should, which runs like as follows. We think about what's quote unquote wrong with us or what we can't do, and then we think we should be different, but we aren't. And this conflict between should and aren't never stops. So thinking about shoulds, moreover, drains away any incentive to do anything about them. And then there is self-criticism. Now, in some cases, it can be positive. It might make you angry enough that you actually make changes. But as a habit, it is very self-destructive. It would prevent you from ever feeling good about anything you do. And you'll find that people who are habitually self-critical and continually find fault with themselves, they rarely enjoy anything for very long. There's always a fly in the ointment. So resistance to what we are makes the process of self-development that much harder. So instead, stop thinking about being perfect and start working to improve what you can improve. And when you have a problem with guilt, you need self-forgiveness. And I'll be giving you a technique to deal with that later. Now, many people will limit themselves based on their environment. They say they're limited by that or by their upbringing. Now, certainly you have been influenced by your environment and your upbringing, but you're not determined by it. Now I'm going to talk about 4 different environments here. First of all, there's your physical environment, the place where you grew up, the place where you live. Now this one can be changed. You don't have to live next door to your helicopter parents, like the fellow across the street from me. You don't have to live in the town or the state or even in the country in which you grew up. Second, you have a cultural environment. This is based on the language that you speak, the customs of the culture in which you live. Now, this is something that can be expanded. You can read books. You can take courses and educate yourself. You can travel abroad. You can learn foreign languages, which is a very good thing to do because it gives you options in ways of thinking. Then there is your all-important social environment, which involves your family, your friends, your teachers, authorities, communication, what's in the media. Now, guess what? Your parents and your social background have nothing to do with your personal circumstances. But what you believe about them now and how you react to them now certainly does. Now, when I moved to England in my 20s, I was able to escape all 3 of those environments. But I didn't escape the 4th, and that's the most important, and that's the internal environment. This is the most important because this is your memories, your expectations, your rules, your speculations about life. And that's something that's going on all the time. I have the picture in mind of the 6 of Swords in the Tarot, where you see the man rowing the boat, and there's a sort of downcast-looking woman and a child in the boat with him, and they're sailing to a better shore. But there's 6 swords with their points downward in the boat. These are their thoughts and their memories that they're taking along with them. Now, so much for what I said about theory. Now, we're going to get into the practice. Now, I'm going to have we're going to do a lot of short meditations here, and then a visualization, and there'll be suggestions to make, and you may think, well, there's no way I can remember all that, but guess what? You don't have to. I have a handout after the service, 2 pages.
Thank you.
You can take all this along with you. Now, first of all, we are going to do a short meditation. It lasts about a minute, called I Am What I Am. Now, one of the basic principles of Hawaiian shamanism is the world is what you think it is, and you are what you think you are. So what we want to do to raise our self-esteem and increase our self-effectiveness is to define yourself honestly in the most positive way you can. So what you're going to be doing is closing your eyes, and you're going to say, I am, and then you're going to add every positive quality, attribute, skill, talent you have. Now what will happen is you may have negative statements come up as well. Just ignore those. Just concentrate on the positives. And if you can only think of a few, that's fine. Just keep repeating them. You'll think of others later on. You might even at home want to make a list. So, don't slouch. Take in a deep breath. Close your eyes. And for 1 minute, begin by saying, I am, and then add these qualities and talents and skills. We'll do that for 1 minute. Okay, just let your minds relax. And open your eyes again. So, anyone have any good vibes from that? Positive effects? Good, good. Okay, now we're going to do the second one. Now this one's called Remember When. Now, people have a habit of recalling all the mistakes they've made. So what you're going to do now to counter that, you're going to start to recall situations in which you did something right, or you had a minor triumph of some kind, or an award. And when you recall these incidents, what you really want to do is remember how good you felt about yourself at that time. So does everybody have that? Okay, close your eyes and start remembering when you did something wonderful. Again, 1 minute. Okay, relax. That go well? Good. Driving away the demons? Good, good, good. Okay, now we're going to do a third one. This one is called Saturation Praise. Now this is something that's supposed to counter all the self-criticism that you're doing all the time. You're going to instead compliment yourself with deserved praise. Deserved praise. Now, to be effective, these statements have to be true, but they don't have to be of earth-shattering importance. They don't have to set the world on fire. So what you're going to do is for 1 minute, you're going to give yourself compliments that you can think of without allowing any time for rebuttals. So again, if you run out, you can start from the beginning again. But you're going to be praising yourself for all of your good qualities. And when you do this exercise, to make it even more effective, imagine that you're standing in front of a large crowd of people and they're all cheering and applauding as you're making these statements, okay? So, deep breath, close your eyes, and start praising yourself for all of your good qualities. Okay, very good. Everybody feeling better now? Good, good. Now I have a fourth technique. This one is going to be in several steps. And this one's called giving up guilt. Important one. And this is a very effective technique if you do it regularly. Now, you don't have to pretend that what you did or what you didn't do didn't happen. You're simply going to change your mind about what it means. This is called self-forgiveness. Now, other people can forgive you all they want, but if you don't forgive yourself, it hardly matters. And you could say, well, God can forgive you, but if you still don't forgive yourself, you're still going to feel guilty. So, what I want you to do is, again, take a deep breath, close your eyes. Now, I want you to imagine that right in front of you is a black filing cabinet. It might have 2 drawers, might have 4, it doesn't matter. This represents one area of your mind. And filed away inside this black filing cabinet are the things about which you feel guilty. Now, consciously think of an incident where you did something wrong, where you didn't do something you were supposed to, and reach into the cabinet, and you'll find that there's a file in there with a name on it, and that symbolizes it. Now, when you pull it out, it may not consist of just written words. You might hear sounds, voices talking. You might also see pictures of what happened, like a short film. And now that you've done that, decide if you can do anything about that incident now. Now, if it's something where you can do something, just reach up on top of the cabinet and you'll find that there's a small sticker there in red that says active. Put that on the file and then put it back in the cabinet. Now, if there's nothing that you can do about the incident now, forgive yourself, which doesn't mean approve of it, but just forgive yourself. And now reach up on top of the cabinet, and there's a rubber stamp there. So there's an ink pad as well, and you just stamp in big letters, it says forgiven on the file. And then take this file and put it into a white filing cabinet that you see next to you as well. This one represents a different area of your memory. And do this exercise with as much detail as you can imagine. And afterwards, you may feel quite differently about the incident as well as about yourself. And the more you do this, the better you'll feel. And one suggestion, if the incident happened to be a major one, complicated, break it up into smaller segments and work on one piece at a time. Okay, you can open your eyes again. Now, here are some suggestions. For one thing, learn to appreciate your good points. I know you have some, no matter how guilty you are. Every morning and every evening, thank your body, thank your mind, and thank your spirit for all of its good qualities and its gifts. Develop a new skill. That will increase your self-confidence. Repeat positive affirmations that counter your negative beliefs about yourself. How many of you have worked with affirmations of some kind or other? Mm-hmm. Okay. Write those for yourself, very positive ones, and that you can accept. Don't make them so lofty that your subconscious mind goes, No. But something that you know that you can achieve. For maximum effectiveness, try doing them while you're staring at your reflection in a mirror, looking right into your eyes. Now, notice when you do this, if you feel unworthy about what you're saying about yourself, because that's going to give you major clues as to what you need to work on. The trick with affirmations is that you're trying to get your subconscious mind to believe the new statements about yourself. And if you find that rather difficult, fake it until you make it. Keep doing it until your subconscious accepts it. And that may take some time, and many people feel that their affirmations are failing, but that's simply because they're lacking persistence. They don't keep at it. Another thing you can do, help other people to feel good about themselves. And when you do that, to your subconscious mind, it's the same as when you do it to yourself. When you get gratitude from other people, treat it as a gift with no expectations of it. Do something good for someone or for a cause. In other words, what are sometimes called random acts of kindness. Don't care about getting credit for it. Best of all, do little things or favors for people without them asking, and even better, without them even knowing anything about it. Now, one thing too that you need to take note of is the importance of energy, strength, and posture. Having lots of physical energy helps you to feel good about yourself. And this can be increased by relaxing regularly, as for example in meditation, breathing deeply, and drinking lots of fresh water. Now, physical strength is also something that increases your self-esteem. And the best way to do that is to get exercise. Now, that doesn't mean you have to go to the gym and be a bodybuilder. Just walking regularly will make a great help. In addition to physical strength, there's also mental strength. This is something that increases when you decide to do something and then you do it without letting any distractions or difficulties stop you. And if it doesn't work, find another way to do it. Every time you use your mental strength, you increase your self-esteem and your abilities to change your reality. And then finally, there's posture. For example, hold yourself like this with your arms crossed and your shoulders kind of shrugged and your head down. And see how that feels. Imagine people around you. And then throw your shoulders back, breathe in deeply and keep your chin up. And notice the way you feel when you do that. Enormous difference. Practicing confident postures in your daily life will help you to clear your mind, calm your emotions, and increase your self-esteem. And then finally, there's an article that I would highly recommend to you that Serge Kahili King wrote. And it's called Self-Esteem Meditations, and I put it on the sheet exactly how to get it. You look up his website, www.huna.org, and you'll see the word with a list articles. Click on that. There's over 500 articles. His are at the top of the page, and when you come down to Self-Esteem Meditations, then you pick one. And there's 7 of them, and you get to choose whether you want to imagine yourself as a tree, an island, a river, a butterfly, the earth, the sun, or a wave. And that is what we're going to do for the last little segment. We're all going to be waves. Not lady sailors, but waves in the sea. Okay, so once again, take a deep breath, sit up straight. This one is a visualization. Now, think of yourself as being a wave in the sea. Now, most people will find this easiest to think of as an ocean wave, so we'll start with that. Imagine what it would like to be a wave moving through the deep ocean like a swell. Imagine yourself big or small, broad or narrow, moving steadily forward. And do your best to imagine yourself as a pure wave of energy. You are moving through the ocean. You are not made of water. You're just a pure wave of energy. Now, something started you moving, but that doesn't really matter right now. What does matter is where you go and what you become. So imagine that you're moving towards an island, perhaps one of the Hawaiian Islands. And in front of you, you see tall cliffs. And as you move closer and the water that you're moving through becomes more shallow, you feel yourself rising higher and higher until the water impacts against the cliff. And you're suddenly aware, perhaps with surprise and delight, that although the water has stopped, you have not. Now, however, you're moving forward as a different kind of wave, a vibration in the rock. You move in all directions, but for the moment, you pay attention to a part of yourself that moves upward towards the roots of a tree. And then you become a vibration wave in that tree, and this stirs you into becoming part of a wave in the wind that carries the scent of blossoms to a young couple sitting on a hill with their hands entwined. And you, as the wave, touch their skin, and you turn into a wave of pure pleasure that turns into smiles on both of their faces. So luxuriate in that feeling for a moment. And now just let it go. Take a deep breath and come back into the room. Look around you, move your hands and feet a little bit. And with that, we come to the end of the talk, and I thank you all for your very kind attention.